In 1943, World War II was in its fourth year, but no side had gained a decisive advantage. Despite their early and rapid success in continental Europe and North Africa, Hitler's Germany had stalled in the face of Britain's RAF and had been bogged down at Stalingrad. A war that looked as though it may be over in a month was taking decidedly longer. In the Pacific theater, American troops fought savagely to regain the islands and atolls conquered by the Japanese. The combined forces of the British and Americans defeated the Germans in North Africa at the decisive Battle of El Alamein, securing a foothold within striking distance of Italy. The close proximity to an Axis power and the allure of knocking Italy out of the war was too enticing for the Allies to pass up. The invasion would have to come as a surprise if it were to have any chance of working, however. The Allies decided on a two-pronged attack, concentrating on an airborne and seaborne assault. For the first time in the war, the American gliders would have a predominant role in an offensive. The invasion of Sicily, and subsequently Italy, was primed to begin.
This is Glasses and the Glider coming from the Silent Wings Museum with our next installment of Wings of War, Let Loose the Dogs of War. Thanks for tuning into our podcast, in which we deal largely with World War II, the American Military Glider Program, and our collection at this museum, located at 6202 North I-27 in Lubbock, Texas. Make sure to tune into our sister podcast, Frames and Fame, where we talk about Buddy Holly, classic rock and roll, and the 1950s.
Despite Italy being referred to by the Allied powers as the soft underbelly of the Axis, the invasion of Italy was not to be taken lightly. Approaching from the south, across the Mediterranean Sea from Tunisia, was the only logical bridge between Allied-occupied Africa and fascist Italy. The combined American and British forces planned to land on the island of Sicily and then fight their way north into Italy. This strategy meant that land support was impossible until a base was established on the island. Being a mountainous landmass with many steep cliffs, Sicily also had notoriously rough tides that kept it shielded from any simple landing. To make things even more complicated, there were over 60,000 veteran German troops and 200,000 Italians stationed at the base. The Allies devised a bold strategy to take the island fortress that included joint amphibious and airborne landings, using a combined effort from American and British gliders for support of the seaborne soldiers. Operation Husky would become the Americans' first major glider operation, and as with all theoretical strategies, when placed in the field, it provided a harsh learning experience for the Allied leadership.
The Allies proceeded to execute several covert operations prior to Husky in an attempt to catch the Axis powers off guard. The experimental glider program had yet to be tested on a large scale, and the stakes of possibly forcing the unstable Italy to collapse around Mussolini was too great a risk to take without misdirection. Operation Mincemeat was the most famous, elaborate, and successful of these operations. British intelligence disguised the corpse of Glinder Michael, a tramp who had died after eating rat poison, to look like a British Marine officer. For this elaborate ruse, British intelligence planted a briefcase filled with fake secret documents about proposed landing sites on the corpse, chaining it to his belt. It was then made to look as if a plane had gone down and Michael's body washed ashore, with plans stating that the Allies were looking to invade Greece and that Sicily was a red herring. The Axis powers discovered these fake documents off the coast of Spain, and with Hitler's continued reluctance to leave the Balkans, Sicily was left less protected. Earlier in the war, the British had broken the German diplomatic codes and knew of the success of Operation Mincemeat before risking their men's lives, a distinct advantage. This led to the Axis powers dividing their forces, and it also led them to believe that the invasion would be of Greece instead of Italy. The vast number of troops and equipment that were to be used in the invasion would leave the Allies committed to the final and deadly push towards Germany.
With the preparations in place and the planning done, the Allies could start their operation. The southern tip of the island would be the staging area for the Allies. The landing forces would push towards Syracuse and the Strait of Messina. At dawn on June 10, 1943, the main invasion began. A combined amphibious and airborne assault of 150,000 troops, 3,000 ships, and 4,000 aircrafts descended upon the southern shore of Italy. Two groups of British gliders, paired with an equal number of American CG-4As, were tasked with marking the landing zones, seizing key Axis bridges, and finally holding the aforementioned bridges until the amphibious troops arrived. However, the amphibious landing did not go smoothly. Rough seas and hidden sandbars delayed troop disembarkation of the crafts. The fighting was fierce, but the Allies managed to push the smaller Axis forces back. Constant counterattacks by the German and Italian troops led to high casualties on both sides, but by July 27th, the Axis had begun to withdraw from Messina. Though they had lost the island, the Axis commanders were extremely successful in their withdrawal from the battlefield, preventing the Allies from capturing any men or equipment while retreating. On August 17, 1943, just over a month after the battle had begun, the Allied powers secured a victory in Sicily.
The overall success of the mission was tempered by the result of the glider mission. Out of the 147 gliders launched, there were only 49 CG-4As and 5 British Horsa gliders that landed safely, with only 12 landing in their designated safe zones. Strong headwinds coupled with British pilots who were inexperienced at flying at night led to 69 gliders crashing into the sea, causing over 250 soldiers to drown. The gliders that did manage to safely arrive on Sicily accomplished their missions of providing support for the invading forces with alarming success, but the high price paid would be unsustainable for the Allies. Pilots and brass alike would need to learn from their mistakes and miscalculations if gliders were to be used further. Luckily, the program was not abandoned, and American gliders were used in 5 more major operations as well as many small insurgencies before the war ended. After Sicily, it was clear that gliders would play a key role in determining the outcome of some battles, and perhaps the entire war.